that shouldn't affect him too much. But it just shows he's a very stupid man, because there's so many instances. I mean, one of the things that he's been complaining about...
magic mushrooms in California.
You idiot.
There's a fair amount of drugs, marijuana, magic mushrooms, cocaine. I mean, that's going to surprise people.
But important to acknowledge.
Prince Harry's name is trending again, but this time it's not. For a documentary, a royal speech, or a tell-all book, what's emerging behind the iron gates of Montecito is darker, much darker. According to whispers from inside security, teams in circles close to the royal family, Harry was found unconscious inside his California mansion. Not from a simple fainting spell, not from exhaustion, but allegedly due to serious substance use. And the most shocking part? Meghan Markle was nowhere to be found. Not only absent, but allegedly seen partying at an exclusive members-only club in Los Angeles just hours after her husband was rushed to the hospital. The image of a crumbling prince is disturbing enough, but the idea of his wife fleeing the scene to preserve appearances, that's a scandal of a whole different scale. Asterisk if you want to keep up with the stories the palace doesn't want you to hear. Hit that subscribe button now. You won't want to miss what's coming. Now here's where things go from bad to worse. According to insider reports, it was Harry's longtime bodyguard David Langdown who found him, and this isn't just a private security detail. Langdown is a decorated former Scotland Yard officer, a man handpicked by the late Queen Elizabeth herself to protect the young prince. He's been with Harry since the early 2000s, through the wild Vegas nights, the military tours, and every royal fallout in between. His loyalty runs deep in this time. It might have saved Harry's life. The emergency response was quiet. No helicopters, no flashing lights, no paparazzi leaks. Just a private ambulance, a coordinated hospital intake, and silence from everyone involved. But now, the cracks are starting to show. And people close to the situation are talking. Because this wasn't a one-off. This wasn't just a wild night that went too far. The whispers say this was the result of years, maybe decades of spiraling addiction, unchecked trauma, and institutional cover-ups. And now, it's finally catching up to the man once seen as the royal family's rebellious charm. Let's be real. Rumors of Harry's substance use aren't new. They've followed him since his teenage years. Weed, alcohol, even harder substances. These stories have surfaced before. But this is different. This is the first time insiders are pointing to a total collapse. The kind that ends in ers, silence from Buckingham Palace, and headlines being scrubbed before they ever go live. You might think back to Harry's infamous days in Las Vegas, the pool parties, the naked photos, the hotel brawls, but even those seem tame compared to what's resurfacing now. Reports from as far back as 2007 claim Harry was experimenting with snorting vodka, not drinking, it's snorting it. A method so dangerous it bypasses the liver and sends alcohol straight to the brain. Medical professionals have warned this can cause immediate neurological damage, even death. And yet, nothing ever came of it. Because the press didn't touch it, the royals didn't comment, and the public never got the full story. Why? Because that's how it's always worked. Every time Harry slipped, someone was there to polish the image, to repackage his behavior as youthful rebellion, and slap a photo op or charity appearance on it the next day. Crisis averted, brand intact. But this latest incident, it can't be smoothed over with a ribbon-cutting ceremony or mental health podcast episode. This is real, and the people around Harry can't hide it anymore. What's even more damning are the reports about Meghan. Multiple sources say she left the Montecito property almost immediately after. Harry was discovered reportedly telling a staff member she had somewhere important to be. That somewhere turned out to be a private club in Los Angeles, where she was allegedly spotted laughing with her inner circle, posing for selfies and behaving like nothing had happened, all while her husband lay in recovery, stabilized only after emergency medical intervention. And this is where the story flips from tragic to chilling. Because according to those familiar with royal security briefings, Meghan wasn't just running away, she was creating an alibi, a carefully orchestrated public appearance designed to prove she couldn't possibly have been involved. Not there, not responsible, not accountable. A move so calculated, so cold, it's raising questions not just about her role in the fallout but in the spiral itself. Is Meghan simply turning a blind eye? Or is she, as some insiders suggest, actively enabling Harry's decline? The allegations are disturbing. People close to the couple allege Meghan has long known about Harry's struggles and that rather than confronting them, she's used them to tighten her grip. The theory: keep Harry dependent, keep him isolated, keep him compliant. And while that may sound like tabloid fiction, there's a past that lends it weight. People who attended Meghan's first wedding in Jamaica still recall the unusual party favors gift. bags allegedly containing pre-rolled joints. Some guests didn't even realize what they were carrying until they got back to the USA move that could have landed them in serious legal trouble. Was it reckless? Maybe. But for those now reviewing her past with new eyes, it paints a picture. One that says Meghan isn't exactly unfamiliar with the world of controlled substances. Then there's Doria. Meghan's mother has always maintained a quiet, almost invisible presence in the public eye. But behind the scenes, rumors swirl. According to anonymous claims from former acquaintances and staff, Doria may have her own ties to California's murkier circles. Some insiders go as far as alleging that she's the one who knows where to get what's needed. A vague but haunting suggestion that she may have helped facilitate the darker elements in Harry's current state? Nothing is proven. Nothing is confirmed, but the fact that such questions are even being whispered in royal corridors should send shivers down the spine of anyone who still believes the fairy tale. Meanwhile, those closest to Harry's real friends, longtime staff, are starting to sound the alarm. David Langdown, the man who found him, has allegedly issued warnings to senior royal aides. He's reportedly furious that things were allowed to get this far, that the support systems meant to protect Harry failed catastrophically. But the palace? Silent? No statement. No denial, just carefully worded, no comment responses passed through PR teams and media liaisons. Because here's the truth. This isn't just about a troubled prince and a distant wife. This is about a system that let it happen, that watched him spiral, that covered up every incident, every overdose scare, every moment that should have been a wake-up call and did nothing. But that's only the beginning. Because this isn't just about what happened in Montecito last week. It's about everything that came before it. And the evidence of a system designed to protect Harry from consequences stretches back decades. Let's rewind. In the early 2000s, long before Meghan Markle ever entered the picture, insiders say Palisades were already panicking over Harry's behavior. It started, publicly at least, with alcohol and weed. But behind the scenes, sources now suggest that his drug use escalated. Rapidly mushrooms, cocaine, and dangerously reckless stunts like snorting alcohol. Not just college party recklessness, medical grade, dangerous. The kind that should have led to intervention, rehab, maybe even police involvement. But what did Prince Charles reportedly do instead? According to royal insiders, he built a private nightclub inside Highgrove, his own estate. Yes, you heard that right. A literal nightclub on royal grounds, allegedly designed to give Harry a place to blow off steam out of the public eye. No flashing cameras, no scandalous headlines, no consequences. Just more room to spiral safely out of view, and that was just the start. There are stories mostly buried of violent outbursts, destroyed hotel rooms, public drunkenness, hushed up before reporters ever got wind of it. One particular incident that resurfaced recently involved Harry allegedly inhaling an entire canister of hospital-grade laughing gas during a private maternity visit. This isn't recreational gas from a party store. These are regulated medical canisters, meant only for doctor-administered procedures. So how did Harry get his hands on one? Who let it happen? And more importantly, why was it ignored? Royal PR teams have mastered the art of distraction. Every time a crisis brews, a counter headline drops. Harry shaking hands with veterans, launching a mental health charity, posing with children for a photo op. These efforts aren't just about good optics, they're damage control in real time, and they've been working overtime for years. But the deeper you dig, the harder it is to believe that Harry was simply a troubled young royal let down by bad luck. Because even during his time in the British Army, a period often painted as redemptive, there are whispers of manipulated drug tests and covered-up incidents. One former palace staffer claims that when a surprise military drug test was announced at Harry's base, he was coincidentally flown out that same morning for a public event. Another insider mentioned a disturbing episode involving both cocaine and vodka during his deployment. But once again, no consequences, no headlines, just silence. And now, all of those buried stories are surfacing at the worst possible time, because Harry's recent hospitalization isn't being viewed in isolation. It's being seen as the consequence of a decades-long cover-up, a slow-motion collapse ignored until it could no longer be denied. And at the heart of the current media storm is a question the palace never wanted asked: who allowed this to happen? According to multiple reports, King Charles was informed immediately when Harry was admitted to the hospital. The call came directly from David Langdown, serious, urgent, and with one clear message: this has gone too far. Sources say phones rang across London all night, not with plans to help Harry, but with instructions to contain the damage, to manage the headlines. 2, once again sanitize the narrative before it spiraled out of control. But the palace isn't just worried about Harry anymore. the whispers behind the walls have shifted. Meghan Markle, once considered a media liability, is now being described as an institutional threat. Her name is showing up in internal security reports, senior royal briefings, even legal consultations. The question being asked isn't, is she the cause? It's, how deep does her influence go? Some officials are reportedly key events from the last 5 years. The couple's sudden exit from the royal family, the bombshell Oprah interview, the strained relationship with William and Kate, and now Harry's breakdown. A pattern is forming and Meghan is being positioned as the common thread. There are rumors, unconfirmed but persistent, that Meghan didn't just ignore Harry's decline, she engineered it. That she isolated him from family and longtime friends. That she created an environment where she controlled the message, the access, and allegedly the substances. There's even talk of private investigators being hired to map out her social circle and potential sources of influence in Los Angeles. And then there's Doria. Meghan's mother has always played the part of quiet support.com, grounded, non-confrontation, but now, even her role is being scrutinized. According to insiders, Doria has more involvement than the public knows, that she's not just a silent figure in the background, but an active participant in Meghan's lifestyle and, possibly, her strategies. One disturbing theory being circulated among royal aides, that Doria may have been the facilitator, that she knew where to source what Meghan wanted, that her ties to the California wellness and alternative medicine scene gave her access to more than just yoga mats and green juice. Nothing is confirmed, but the fact that these theories are being taken seriously inside royal offices tells you everything about the level of panic behind palace walls. This time, the royal PR machine may not be able to hide the cracks. The narrative is collapsing under its own weight. What once could be dismissed as tabloid fiction now has too many overlapping sources, too many confirmed details, too many people who have seen too much. And at the center of it all is a prince broken, alone, and dangerously close to disappearing, completely from the public's sympathy. And yet, in the eye of the storm, one man remains quietly loyal. David Langdown, the bodyguard who found Harry, who stayed with him through every scandal, every meltdown, every moment of crisis. The one person who has never leaked a story, never sold a photo, never turned his back. The man who, according to insiders, has been pleading with palace officials for years to intervene to do something before it was too late. He made the call that night. He got Harry to the hospital. He probably saved his life, but even he may not be able to save Harry from what's coming next. Because at this point, it's no longer about a single night gone wrong, it's about a prince spiraling, and an institution unraveling right along with him. Insiders say this latest episode has left Harry emotionally shattered, not just physically, weak, not just embarrassed but broken. And while his recovery is being kept under tight wraps, there are whispers that he's begun asking serious questions about the people around him who stayed, who vanished, who helped, and who left him to rot. That line of questioning reportedly hasn't sat well with Meghan. Multiple sources suggest that tension between the couple has reached a boiling point, that the hospital incident forced conversations they'd been avoiding for years, and that for the first time, Harry may be realizing just how deep the manipulation runs. Some even claim he's been shocked at how quickly Meghan returned to public life, attending social events, maintaining her influencer image, and continuing brand deals as if nothing had happened. But the most devastating detail? Meghan allegedly hasn't visited the hospital more than once. A quick drop-in, according to one nurse's anonymous account, followed by a vague statement to staff. He needs rest. I'll check in later. She never came back. The optics are damning to the outside world. Meghan is either an emotionally distant partner or someone preserving herself from a situation she had a hand in creating. And behind palace walls, there's no more ambiguity. Officials reportedly see her as a strategic threat, a liability, whose influence must be limited before it causes irreparable harm. The term being whispered now, alibi architecture. That's what insiders are calling her pattern of public appearances during private chaos. Appear at a gala the night of a family emergency. Be seen laughing with friends while Harry is recovering. Offer generic support statements, but only through press releases. Never direct action. It's not just cold, it's calculated, and royal aides have taken notice. Sources close to palace legal teams claim that contingency plans are being quietly drawn up. Not divorce papers at least not yet, but preparation for what one senior source described as a total media fallout, the kind that would require rapid-fire press briefings, legal countermeasures, and possibly even distancing the royal institution from Meghan entirely. But even as the palace pivots, public opinion is shifting faster. Social media, once divided over Team Harry versus Team Royal, has started turning against both. Comment sections now read like confessions. Former supporters expressing heartbreak, critics saying they told us so. and many just asking, how did it get this bad? The answer lies not just in who Harry married, but in what he was never given. Because underneath all the royal drama, the PR spin, and the media distractions is a simple truth. Harry is a man who never healed. Not from Diana's death, not from childhood trauma, not from the weight of a crown he didn't want, but couldn't fully escape. And as much as the palace tried to manage his image, they never addressed the root cause. They groomed him for duty, but not for survival. And now, that oversight may cost them everything. Because what's happening isn't just a scandal, it's a collapse. Of a man, of a marriage, of a myth the monarchy has desperately tried to uphold. That its members are fine, that their privilege protects them. That royal blood somehow inoculates them from the very human experiences of addiction, pain, and betrayal. Harry is living proof that it doesn't, and the palace knows it. That's why this time their response has been different. Quieter, more strategic, less denial, more legal consultation. Less distraction, more investigation. Insiders say King Charles is furious, not just at the media chaos, but at the realization that Harry's pain was never fully understood. That while William became the stable heir, Harry was left to figure it all out alone with disastrous results. And now, there's talk that Charles may be preparing to make one final irreversible move, cutting ties completely, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity, because if the public begins to believe that Meghan had any role in Harry's collapse that the palace allowed it to happen, the monarchy could suffer reputational damage. It may never recover from Dot. And that brings us to the woman whose name is now appearing in almost every internal report, Meghan Markle. What began as speculation has evolved into a full-scale reassessment. Officials are reportedly digging through everything from her social ties in Hollywood to her business partners, her nonprofit dealings, and, yes, even her medical records. The goal? To determine just how much of Harry's collapse can be traced back to her world, and they're not stopping there. Investigators are allegedly re-examining the couple's communications, emails, texts, calendar events to reconstruct the days leading up to the hospitalization. Why? Because one source claims Meghan knew Harry was spiraling and chose not to intervene. Worse, that she intentionally left the house at the precise time she knew he'd be most vulnerably, instructing staff not to disturb her evening plans. That's no longer tabloid drama. That's legally actionable territory, and behind every shocking revelation, one figure looms larger than ever. David Langdown, the man who made the call, the man who's been there for every meltdown, the man who's reportedly documenting every incident. If it all blows up, and insiders say it might, Langdown could become a key witness, not in a trial, but in the court of public opinion. The one person who saw it all and stayed silent until now. But even as the palace mobilizes its crisis teams and the headlines swirl, one truth remains tragically clear. Harry is not well, not mentally, not emotionally, and perhaps now, not even physically. This isn't just a tale of a fallen prince, it's the unraveling of a man who never stood a chance in the system that raised him. From childhood, Harry was thrust into the spotlight, his every move dissected, his grief repackaged into clickbait. And when he began to crack under the weight of it all, instead of being offered healing, he was handed handlers. Instead of therapy, PR. Instead of genuine support, rehearsed statements and carefully curated appearances. And now, after everything, his exile, his memoir, his documentaries, his marriage, he's alone. A man surrounded by people, but increasingly cut off from anyone who truly knows him. Those who tried to stay close were allegedly pushed out. His bond with his brother fractured, his ties to the firm strained, and now his connection to his own health nearly lost. What makes this situation even more heartbreaking is that Harry has been screaming for help for years, just not always. In words people wanted to hear, his explosive interviews, his erratic decisions, his public rants. They weren't just rebellion, they were the flares of someone drowning, and no one in the royal machine wanted to get wet pulling him out, because helping Harry would have meant facing the system's failures. It would have meant admitting that royalty isn't always a fairy tale, that trauma doesn't discriminate, that bloodlines don't protect against breakdowns. And Meghan, whether she was a bystander or an active participant in Harry's decline, her actions or lack thereof will haunt this story forever. The image of her leaving that mansion while Harry lay unconscious inside is now burned into the minds of both royal watchers and everyday people who once believed in their love story. The word alibi hangs heavy over her head, and if the rumors are true that she intentionally placed herself at a public event that night to avoid scrutiny, then the coldness of that move is something the palace and the public may never forgive. And yet, in all of this, there's one undeniable tragedy: Harry's legacy. He was once the royal the world rooted for, the cheeky second son who challenged tradition, the soldier who walked behind his mother's coffin and then went on to serve in a war zone. The prince who launched the Invictus Games championed mental health and tried, however messily, to write a new chapter on his own terms. But now, he's become a headline he can't control. A cautionary tale whispered in palace halls. A figure whose downfall threatens not just his reputation, but the very fabric of the monarchy he was born to serve. And the scariest part? This story isn't over because what comes next could change everything. If Harry recovers and speaks out, the entire truth could explode into public view. If he doesn't, the palace may try to bury it all again. And if Meghan is found to have played even a minor role in this collapse, the backlash could be seismic, not just for her brand, but for every institution that enabled the illusion already. Legal teams are working behind the scenes, preparing for all outcomes. Statements are being drafted. Media outlets are bracing, and David Langdown. He's reportedly been instructed not to speak, but if things escalate, his silence may be impossible to maintain. The world is watching now, not because of a Netflix series, not because of a red carpet, but because, finally, the truth may be louder than the PR machine. And that truth is messy, uncomfortable, devastating. Harry isn't just a rebel. He's a man unraveling, a soul trapped in systems that promised protection but delivered pain. And if this really is his rock bottom, then maybe, just maybe, it can be the moment something changes. Not just for him, but for the family, the firm, the crown itself. Because if the royals want to preserve their legacy, they can't just manage Harry anymore. They have to reckon with him, with the choices they made, with the damage they ignored, and with the cost of silence. This may be the last warning before everything collapses for good. So stay close. Keep watching, because if the truth finally comes out, it won't just shake the palace. It could shatter it. And if you want to be here when that moment arrives, don't forget to subscribe. The next chapter is coming, and you'll want to see it unfold in real time.